After I got LASIK and new clothes, my brother said my new look would upstage the bride at his wedding, so I stayed home. Now they say I'm selfish. I am 30 years old and the oldest of 2 children. My younger brother Lucas, 27, has always been the family favorite. He played football in high school, attended college on a partial sports scholarship, and currently works as a physical therapist. Everyone usually mentions how attractive and pleasant he is. Meanwhile, I've always been the quiet one, concentrating on school, and eventually a profession in accounting. Growing up, I was considered a late bloomer. I wore heavy glasses, had braces for 4 years, and was very uncomfortable socially. I wasn't overweight, just average and nondescript. Kids at school usually ignored me, which was okay because I liked to read. Lucas, on the other hand, has been popular since elementary school. He frequently had people over, attended parties, and began dating in middle school. My parents, Susan, 54, and Richard, 56, never said anything blatantly unpleasant about my appearance, but there was a clear difference in how they treated us. They attended all of Lucas's games and purchased him costly sporting gear. For me, they'd go to parent-teacher conferences where instructors applauded my grades but scarcely mentioned it at home. When Lucas brought home C's, they would applaud his progress. It was not surprising that I brought home A's. The true difficulty began in high school. Lucas began making comments about my appearance, particularly when his buddies were around. He'd recommend contact lenses or inquire why I never wore makeup. At family events, people would always ask Lucas about ladies and sports, followed by questions about my grades and college ambitions. The message was plain. His value stemmed from his attractiveness and social skills. Mine stemmed from being intelligent and responsible. Something happened during my senior year that left me deeply upset. I'd been accepted to a prominent institution on a half scholarship. I was ecstatic and hoped my folks would be proud. When I informed him during dinner, my mother thought it was great and quickly went to Lucas to inquire about his forthcoming prom date. That's when I understood they valued his social life over mine. Achievements College was better for me. I made a few close friends, joined the debate team, and really got into my stride intellectually. I still looked pretty much the same, with spectacles, no cosmetics, and modest attire. I dated briefly, but nothing serious. Lucas attended a state school closer to home and continued to play football. My parents paid him regular visits, but barely saw me twice in 4 years. Following college, I relocated across the nation for a position with a reputable accounting firm. I assumed the distance would benefit our relationship, and for a time, it did. Phone talks were cordial, and when I came home twice a year, everything seemed regular. Then, this summer, Lucas proposed to his college sweetheart, Catherine, a 26-year-old dental hygienist who is blonde and effervescent. Everyone was overjoyed when the couple announced their engagement during a family cookout. My parents immediately started discussing wedding plans and grandkids. I felt truly thrilled for him. However, during that visit, Lucas stated something that concerned me. We were alone in the kitchen when he announced that Catherine's friends would be bridesmaids. Then he stated, I'd probably want to change my appearance before the wedding photographs because Catherine's side would be all suited up. He advised I acquire contact lenses and perhaps have Catherine assist me with cosmetics and clothing shopping. I did not say anything at the time, but it stayed with me. A few months later, my employer offered to pay for LASIK surgery as part of our health insurance. I had been thinking about it for practical reasons, but Lucas's response spurred me to actually do it. The operation went well, and I was able to see properly without glasses for the first time since I was 9 years old. Around the same time, I received a substantial promotion at work. With the increased money, I decided to upgrade my clothing. Instead of simply buying whatever was on sale, I began browsing at finer places and purchasing clothing that truly fit properly. I also began visiting a reputable salon rather than the inexpensive chain stores I had previously frequented. The largest shift occurred 6 months ago. I walked past a high-end salon and decided to stop in for a consultation. The hairdresser looked at my monotonous brown hair and told me I had wonderful bone structure that was disguised. 3 hours later, I walked out with shoulder-length layers and highlights that made my hair appear practically golden in certain lighting. The transformation was astounding. Without glasses, a good haircut, and clothing that fit, I looked radically different. People at work began treating me differently. Not drastically, but I did notice more smiles, small conversation, and invites to after-work parties. I started dating more seriously and have lately begun seeing someone I truly enjoy. The thing is, I haven't seen my family since before all of these events. We video chat periodically, but I generally position the camera so they can't see anything. I planned to surprise them at Lucas's wedding, hoping they'd be pleased to see how well I looked. But then 3 weeks ago, I received a call from my mother. She said Catherine's mother had seen my LinkedIn profile photo, which I had recently updated with a professional headshot. Apparently Catherine's mother showed it to Catherine, who then showed it to Lucas, who informed my parents. My mother was not pleased. She stated I looked radically different, and that it was inappropriate for the groom's sister to upstage the bride. She thought my blonde hair would clash with the wedding colors, and Catherine was concerned about the photographs. Then she mentioned something that really hit home for me. I was definitely going through a phase and attempting to be someone I wasn't. Lucas phoned me the next day. He stated he understood that I wanted to look well for his wedding, but I had gone too far. He stated that Catherine was concerned about me stealing attention away from her, especially because some of her family would be seeing me for the first time and would assume I was competing with the bride. He requested me to tint my hair brown again before the wedding and to tone down my makeup and clothing. He stated Catherine valued family photographs and that my new look was too distracting. I was astonished. I was feeling the most confident I'd ever been, and my family was urging me to change back because I might appear too nice at the wedding. I informed Lucas that I would not modify my looks for anybody, and that if Catherine felt intimidated by how I appeared, it was her issue. The conversation became heated. Lucas accused me of being self-centered and that I had always envied his relationship with Catherine. He said that I had been silent and uneasy during their engagement celebration, which was not true. I had just become exhausted from traveling. He said I was finally getting attention from males, and it was getting to my head. That truly stung. I explained to him that I had made these changes for myself, not to compete with anyone. I stated that I was weary of being treated as the ugly sister who should be grateful for any attention. Lucas stated that this was not how people perceived me, but that families made concessions for significant events. My folks contacted me on speakerphone a few days later. They stated they understood my need to appear great, but that I should examine the broader picture. My mother stated that in wedding photographs the bride should be the main focus, and that my significant change in look would be disturbing. My father told me I could go back to blonde after the wedding if I truly wanted to. They also advised that I wear a more conservative dress than the one I had chosen. I purchased a navy blue dress that was not exposing at all, but rather nicely fitting. However, my mother stated that Catherine believed it could be too form-fitting for family portraits. I felt like I was back in high school, being told to reduce myself so Lucas could shine. The message was plain. I was meant to be the plain, quiet sister who fit into the background, and straying beyond that position seemed terrible. I told them I wasn't altering anything about my looks, and that if Catherine was so concerned about her own wedding that she couldn't take her prospective sister-in-law looking lovely, she should rethink marrying. That did not go over well. My mother thought I was being unkind, and Catherine was only trying to make her wedding day perfect. She said that every bride deserved to be the focus of attention on her wedding day, and that I was being intentionally difficult. My family has scarcely spoken to me in the 3 weeks since the wedding. Lucas texted me that if I showed there looking like I do now, I'd be generating unneeded trouble on a special occasion. My mother left a message warning me that if I don't honor the bride's desires, Catherine's family will think less of our family. The fact is, I'm not trying to overshadow anyone. I just want to look like myself. The greatest version of me. I worked hard to enhance my beauty and confidence, and now I'm told to suppress it because it makes others uncomfortable. I'm starting to wonder whether I should miss the wedding entirely. Part of me believes that if my own family isn't thrilled that I'm finally feeling good about myself, they may not deserve to have me around at all. So, am I being unreasonable in refusing to modify my looks for my brother's wedding, or are they asking me to make myself seem worse, merely to make the bride happy? Update 1. I didn't anticipate my post to receive so much attention, so thank you to everyone who responded. The remarks helped me view the problem more clearly. A lot has transpired since I last updated, and things are worse than I expected. First, I should state that I have resolved not to modify anything about my looks. The responses convinced me that my family's request was absurd and that I had every right to dress whatever I wanted during the wedding. But then, approximately a week after I posted, something happened that entirely shifted my perspective on the problem. Lucas's best buddy from college, Ryan, 27, contacted me via social media. We had met a few times over the years but never truly chatted one-on-one. He explained that he needed to tell me something important and asked if we could speak quietly. We ended up having a video conversation, and what he said shocked me. Catherine had apparently been making comments about me for months prior to seeing my new profile photo. Ryan stated that at Lucas and Catherine's engagement party last year, she made repeated remarks about how relieved Lucas's sister was not competing for attention. She clearly stated that I was plain and would not overshadow her during the wedding. But Ryan claimed that things became worse after that. Catherine supposedly spent a big chunk of the evening discussing wedding plans and said that she was happy the photographs will be gorgeous because the wedding party was all attractive individuals, unlike the groom's family. When asked what she meant, she said that Lucas's sister was uncomfortable and unfashionable, but she would blend in. Ryan stated that he had wanted to say anything at the time, but did not want to make any trouble. However, after my parents supposedly phoned Lucas in a panic over my new look, Catherine's response was so strong that Ryan felt compelled to reach out. Ryan characterized Catherine's reaction to my LinkedIn photo as a full meltdown. She called me various insults that I would not mention here, and she refused to let me look better than her bridesmaids. She insisted that Lucas instruct me to change everything back, and when he appeared uncertain, she threatened to postpone the wedding. Ryan claims Catherine spent the whole evening at their apartment combing through my social media sites and showing Lucas images, pointing out how different I appeared and arguing it was deliberate sabotage. She supposedly claimed I was envious of their connection and was attempting to spoil her special day. What truly struck me was what Ryan said next. He informed me that Catherine had persuaded Lucas that I had always been envious of him. Going back to childhood, she seems to have reframed every encounter we'd ever had as me being envious of his success and notoriety. She informed him that making these modifications shortly before the wedding showed that I couldn't abide seeing him happy. The toughest thing was discovering that my parents evidently agreed with Catherine's perspective. Ryan claimed that when Lucas phoned regarding my new appearance, they instantly agreed with Catherine and began discussing how I had always been difficult and jealous as a youngster. Ryan apologized for not speaking out sooner, but he'd finally realized he couldn't keep watching this happen. He said he had known our family for years via Lucas, and that the way they were talking about me was extremely unjust. This talk with Ryan helped me realize that the issue was more than just my appearance at the wedding. My family, led by Catherine, had allegedly been talking about me for months, as if I were some kind of envious, difficult person. They had transformed my good life improvements into proof of character defects. I was very startled. I'd always knew I wasn't the favored child, but I had no idea they deliberately saw me as a nasty person. The thought that they'd been discussing my alleged jealousy and issues behind my back for months was tough to accept. After speaking with Ryan, I decided to phone Lucas personally. I made no mention of Ryan, but I did ask him directly whether he believed I was attempting to spoil his wedding by enhancing my looks. The conversation did not go well. Lucas quickly became defensive, claiming that I was constantly making everything about me. He said that I'd been aloof and strange during family gatherings for years, and that my abrupt metamorphosis was clearly related to his wedding because the timing was unusual. When I tried to explain that my adjustments had nothing to do with him, he cut me off and declared that everything revolved around me as the victim. He said Catherine had helped him identify trends in my conduct that he had been ignoring for years. That's when I understood Catherine had done more than simply affect his impression of my beauty. She had evidently persuaded him to rewrite our whole brother relationship via her perspective. I asked him for specific instances of times when I was jealous or unpleasant, and he failed to come up with anything tangible. He commented that I had been silent throughout their engagement announcement, which I stated was due to my tiredness from flying. He said I never appeared enthused about their relationship, which was false. I had merely been preoccupied with my own life. The longer we chatted, it became evident that Lucas had entirely accepted Catherine's story about me. In his opinion, I was the envious sister who had always despised his happiness and was now attempting to take attention at his wedding. I closed the call by telling him that I was saddened by how he and Catherine were talking about me, and that I wasn't trying to make trouble. I said that I merely wanted to attend his wedding looking like myself, and that if that was too intimidating, I shouldn't come at all. Lucas said that it was probably better if I didn't regard the bride's sentiments. So, with the wedding next week, I plan to stay at home. I've already informed my parents that I won't be attending, and they were relieved rather than sad. The entire event has made me understand that my family's perception of me differs greatly from how I see myself. They seem to perceive me as envious, difficult, and attention-seeking. While I've always tried to be helpful and out of the way, I'm not sure what happens next with my family. But for now, I need some space from them all. Update 2. The wedding occurred 2 weeks ago, and the aftermath has been much more dramatic than I anticipated. I did not attend, as I said in my last report. Instead, I spent the weekend in a spa facility approximately 2 hours away from my city. I turned off my phone and focused on resting and absorbing what had transpired. When I finally checked my messages Sunday evening, I saw dozens of missed calls and texts from various family members and friends. At first, I assumed something dreadful had occurred, but as I went through the texts, I discovered the drama was all about me not being present. Apparently numerous relatives wondered where I was throughout the reception. My parents had informed others that I was unwell, but my Aunt Tina, my father's sister, knew I lived close and offered to check on me. Tina became skeptical and began to ask additional questions when my parents indicated it wasn't necessary. The truth came out when one of Lucas's college acquaintances, who was aware of the situation, told another relative that I had opted not to attend due to concerns about my looks. Word went rapidly across the family, and by the conclusion of the reception, most people were aware that there had been some sort of family drama involving me and Catherine. My Aunt Tina contacted me on Monday morning. She was unhappy because no one had informed her what was actually going on, and she wanted to hear my side of things. I told her the basic facts. Catherine and my family had requested me to modify my look for the wedding, and I had opted not to go rather than cause complications. Tina was infuriated. She claimed she had observed my parents treating Lucas and me differently over the years, but she had no idea it had become that terrible. She thought the concept of expecting me to make myself appear bad for someone else's wedding was ludicrous. I didn't anticipate Tina to contact my parents and tell them what was on her mind. She allegedly told them that they should be ashamed of themselves for supporting Catherine over their own daughter, and that missing their child's wedding for something so trivial would be something they'd regret forever. This resulted in a heated family quarrel. My parents contacted me Wednesday night, and they were both angry. They said Tina had no right to be engaged in our family affairs, and that I was causing issues by discussing private topics with cousins. My mother claimed I had humiliated them by not coming up, and Catherine's family was curious as to why the groom's sister was not at the wedding. She stated that people were beginning to believe there was something really wrong with our family. My father told me that I had been selfish, and that missing Lucas's wedding was something I would never be able to undo. He stated that whatever difficulties I had with Catherine could have been resolved after the wedding, but that I had chosen to make a statement rather than be present for my brother. When I said that they had chosen Catherine's sentiments over mine months before the wedding, the conversation became quite heated. My mother replied it wasn't true and that they were only trying to preserve the peace. I asked her why it always appeared like preserving the peace meant giving up what I wanted. And she said that was ludicrous. But when I asked her to think of a single instance where they had asked Lucas to compromise for my sake, she couldn't come up with one. That's when my father said something incredibly hurtful. He said that I was always troublesome, and that they had spent years walking on eggshells around me. He stated, Lucas was simple to please and appreciative for what he had, but I was constantly seeking reasons to be dissatisfied. I was astonished. I asked him if I'd ever been difficult or ungrateful, and he answered it was simply my overall attitude over time. When I probed for details, he remarked that I'd been silent and introverted at family gatherings, and that I'd never seemed enthusiastic about family news or events. I discovered my parents had entirely changed our family history. In their eyes, I was suddenly the problem kid who had always been difficult to deal with, despite the fact that I had never created any significant difficulty, had performed well in school, and had developed a successful profession. The meeting concluded with them telling me that if I wanted to be a member of the family, I needed to apologize to Lucas and Catherine for skipping the wedding and causing trouble. I have not made that apology, and I do not intend to. But the scenario became increasingly odd last week. Lucas called, and I almost did not answer. When I did, he sounded different from our prior calls, less furious and more perplexed. He said that he and Catherine had returned from their honeymoon, and that there had been some concerns during the trip that prompted him to contact me. Apparently, Catherine kept bringing up the wedding on their honeymoon, emphasizing how grateful she was that I hadn't been present to cause difficulties. Lucas admitted that he first agreed with her, but she refused to let the issue go. According to Lucas, Catherine spent a good chunk of their honeymoon discussing about me and evaluating my reasons. She seemed to have theories about why I had changed my look, why I had skipped the wedding, and what I could do next to attract attention. Lucas stated that by the conclusion of the vacation, he was weary of talking about me and preferred to focus on their new marriage. But whenever he attempted to change the subject, Catherine would bring it back to the drama with me and how it had damaged her wedding day. He stated something snapped for him when Catherine mentioned how my absence was most likely planned to create maximum drama and have people talking about me rather than celebrating their marriage. Lucas recognized Catherine seemed to think more about me than I did about her, and that the preoccupation might not be coming from my end. Lucas questioned me directly whether I had skipped the wedding to hurt him or get attention. I told him honestly that I just wanted to avoid making things worse and that I believed my absence would be more convenient for everyone than my presence. He remained silent for a long time before expressing concern that things had gotten out of control. He said that he was beginning to think Catherine's reservations about my looks were overstated, and that he wished we had all handled the matter better. But then he said something that made me think he still wasn't sure what had happened. He expressed optimism that we could move on from this, and that I would make an effort to get along with Catherine in the future. I informed him that I'd never had a bad relationship with Catherine, and that she'd obviously been making disparaging remarks about me for months before I realized there was an issue. I explained that the problem wasn't that I didn't get along with her, but that she refused to accept that I may look different than before. Lucas appeared astonished by this, which made me believe Catherine's concerns to him were likely more subtle than Ryan had stated. Lucas finished the call by expressing he wanted to sort things out, but it would take time, and Catherine was still unhappy about what had transpired. I told him I wasn't going to apologize for how I looked or for skipping a wedding where I wasn't really welcome, but I hoped things would get better between us someday. Right now, I'm not sure what will happen next with my family. Lucas seemed to be realizing that the matter may be more complicated than he first assumed, but my parents are steadfast in their belief that I am the tough one who caused difficulties. I'm not expecting any significant changes in how people perceive me, but at least I now have a better understanding of where I stand with each of them. Update 3. I wasn't planned on posting another update, but so much has transpired that I thought people would be interested in knowing how things ended. The most significant development is that Lucas and Catherine are experiencing major marital troubles, which are linked to the overall situation with me and the wedding. Lucas contacted me around 3 weeks ago and asked if we might meet in person the next time I was home. I told him I wasn't planning any travels home soon, but we could video chat if he wanted to talk. What he told me during that call was rather eye-opening. Catherine's fascination with me seems to have continued after their honeymoon. She's been bringing me up on a daily basis, evaluating my social media postings and guessing on the reasons behind my different life decisions. Lucas stated that Catherine had been monitoring my LinkedIn profile regularly to see whether I had changed my photo or work information. She'd also been stalking my little social media presence, commenting on whatever I posted, even if it was as insignificant as a snapshot of a book I was reading or a restaurant I frequented. The breaking point came when I shared a photo from a business conference I had attended. It was just a professional snapshot of me with some coworkers, but Catherine noticed it and spent the entire evening telling Lucas how I was definitely attempting to flaunt my new look and attract the attention of males at work. Lucas claimed he eventually informed her that her continual emphasis on me was causing a problem in their marriage and that she should think about why she was so concerned about what I was doing with my life. That resulted in a heated argument in which Catherine accused Lucas of siding with me against her. She said that despite having skipped the ceremony, I was still attempting to interfere with their marriage, and that Lucas was being naive about my intentions. Lucas stated that this was the point at which he understood Catherine's troubles with me went much beyond her wedding fears. He began to pay attention to how she spoke about other women in general, and he realized that she frequently made disparaging remarks about female colleagues, his friends' girlfriends, and even strangers we encountered while out together. Around the same time, Ryan, Lucas's buddy who had first contacted me, appears to have had another conversation with Lucas. Ryan informed him of some more statements Catherine had made about me that he had not previously discussed, including her statement that I was probably envious of their relationship since I couldn't find a steady boyfriend myself. Ryan was unaware that I had been in a relationship for some months at that point. When Lucas conveyed this to Catherine and suggested that she had been mistaken about my goals, Catherine became enraged and claimed that I was probably making up the boyfriend for attention. Lucas saw a trend of Catherine thinking the worst about others, especially other women, and refusing to accept the possibility that she was mistaken about their goals. The matter escalated 2 weeks ago when Catherine learned that I had been promoted at work. My employer had made a notice on its website, and Catherine spotted it. She showed it to Lucas and said I was obviously attempting to make them appear terrible by being more successful than they were. Lucas stated he'd had enough. He informed Catherine that my professional success had nothing to do with their marriage, and that her obsessive concentration on me was harmful and destructive to their relationship. Catherine did not take it well. According to Lucas, she stated that if he couldn't see how I was attempting to mislead and harm their family, he might not be the guy she believed she married. She said I had been playing games for years and that Lucas was falling for my ruse. Lucas stated that the chat made him understand that Catherine had developed a complete dream about me as this manipulative person who was covertly scheming against them. He began to reflect on what she had said about me over the months, realizing that the majority of her proof for my alleged jealousy and manipulation was simply me going about my usual life. He stated he attempted to get Catherine to try couples therapy to help her overcome her fixation with me, but she refused. She stated that the issue was not her reaction to my conduct, but my behavior itself, and that therapy would be ineffective unless I admitted what I was doing wrong. So Lucas and Catherine are now separated. She went back home with her parents last week, and Lucas believes they will divorce. He phoned to apologize for not seeing things clearly previously. He said he got caught up in Catherine's account of events and hadn't considered if her interpretation of my actions made sense. Lucas said that Catherine had asked our family to control me rather than deal with her own insecurities, and that everyone had agreed since it looked simpler than questioning her. He also claimed to have spoken with our parents and attempted to persuade them that they had handled the problem incorrectly. According to Lucas, they are still somewhat protective about their behavior, but they are beginning to see that pressuring me to modify my look was definitely a mistake. My parents haven't contacted me personally yet, but Lucas suggested they may. He stated they looked ashamed by how things had turned out, especially now that it was evident Catherine's fears about me were exaggerations. In terms of my connection with Lucas, we've begun to communicate more frequently, and things are gradually improving. He expressed his desire to mend our connection and apologized for allowing Catherine's thoughts to affect how he perceived me. I accepted his apologies, but I also informed him that the incident had taught me how easily my family might turn against me. I expressed worry that none of them had questioned Catherine's assessment of my conduct or examined whether she was the one with a problem. Lucas agreed that this was reasonable and understood why I would not trust the family's judgment in the future. Right now, I'm keeping my distance from my parents until they're ready to have an open discussion about how they handled the situation. I'm not upset with them, but I also don't want to pretend everything is okay when it isn't. As for Catherine, I have no desire to be in a relationship with her, and I doubt she will be in my life for much longer. The entire experience has taught me that family members may choose to perceive you in whichever manner is most comfortable for them, regardless of fact. It's disheartening to discover that my parents and Lucas were so eager to accept a negative interpretation of my behavior, but it's also liberating to stop attempting to control their opinions. I'm focused on my profession, my relationship, and the family members who know me well enough to give me the benefit of the doubt. Life is too short to try to convince others that you are not the evil they have made you out to be.